Imagine turning the gritty, high-stakes arena of corporate deal-making into a pure art form. In 1987, a rising New York real estate developer co-authored a business book that rapidly mutated into an absolute cultural phenomenon, dominating the New York Times bestseller list for 13 consecutive weeks and moving over 1 million copies in its initial run. That book was titled Trump, The Art of the Deal, and it did significantly more than simply transform Donald Trump into an iconic household name. It custom-engineered a ruthless strategic blueprint that he would systematically carry with him all the way to the White House. His foundational approach to business and life was simple, hyper-aggressive, and completely unapologetic. Aim exceptionally high, and then continuously push and press until you capture exactly what you are tracking. This narrative shifts into a masterclass of structural flexibility right from its opening chapter. The book kicks off by dissecting a chaotic, unscripted week in Trump's daily routine, revealing a striking operational reality. No formal briefcases, no rigidly scheduled board meetings, and zero corporate bureaucracy. Instead, the text maps a fast-paced environment of continuous phone calls, impulsive opportunity chasing, and spontaneous project site visits. Trump explicitly defines his professional style as completely loose, choosing to dynamically react to whatever variables manifest throughout the day. This was a calculated, deliberate rejection of traditional corporate rigidity, a fluid behavioral philosophy that would permanently define his real estate career, his media output, and his eventual political campaigns. Beneath this superficial landscape of daily chaos lies a highly calculated, street-smart methodology. The text structures its entire operational philosophy around 11 core principles, completely bypassing dense academic economic theories in favor of practical, aggressive execution rules. This checklist commands practitioners to think big, protect the downside, maximize options, know the market, use intense leverage, enhance location, get the word out, fight back hard, deliver the goods, rigorously contain costs, and have fun. Whether you deeply admire his trajectory or fiercely criticize his ethics, these specific strategic tools are the exact mechanisms that manufactured his multi-billion-dollar empire, proving to be remarkably effective at bending competitive environments to his will. The engine driving this entire philosophy is the very first principle: think big. The text argues that the vast majority of human beings naturally think small, not because they lack capability, but because they are fundamentally terrified of corporate risk and major success. Trump identified this widespread psychological timidity as his primary competitive advantage. From the absolute launchpad of his career, he completely refused to construct average buildings in forgettable locations. He demanded to permanently reconfigure the Manhattan skyline by engineering the tallest, most luxurious, and most heavily talked about real estate on the planet. Within this paradigm, thinking big is never an abstract ambition. It is a mandatory psychological conviction that automatically converts itself into a self-fulfilling prophecy. However, the framework introduces a fascinating operational twist with its second directive: protect the downside. While the public routinely views Trump as an erratic, high-rolling gambler, his actual formula hinges on a surprisingly conservative risk architecture. He maintains that you must enter every single negotiation explicitly anticipating and planning for the absolute worst-case scenario. If you can structurally survive the worst possible outcome, the upside will always naturally take care of itself. He internalized this lesson through painful historical data, such as his aggressive acquisition of a losing football team in a collapsing sports league, a rare tactical miscalculation where he possessed no operational fallback plan. The core lesson is clear: always protect your baseline, because survival is the prerequisite for victory. This emphasis on survival naturally brings our analysis to the directive of maximizing your options. The framework rigidly dictates that a dealmaker must never allow themselves to become emotionally attached to a single project, a single partner, or a single methodology. Trump emphasizes the tactical necessity of keeping a massive array of balls in the air simultaneously, explicitly calculating that the vast majority of promising negotiations will completely fall through due to external variables beyond your control. The moment you lock yourself into a singular outcome, you surrender your leverage. Flexibility within a negotiation is never a sign of intellectual weakness. It is the ultimate tool of structural power, ensuring that the individual with the most options always dictates the final terms. This power dynamic is completely useless without the seventh principle: know your market. Trump famously rejected expensive corporate consultants, academic pollsters, and mainstream statisticians, choosing instead to run his own raw, direct consumer research. He demanded to hear unfiltered data straight from the public. When he initially proposed the construction of Trump Tower, mainstream real estate experts were intensely skeptical of the financial math, but Trump intimately understood the exact psychological profile of his target demographic. Ultra-wealthy international buyers who were desperate to purchase glamour, status, and elite prestige. The lesson is unvarnished. If you fail to accurately diagnose the exact psychological desires of your consumer, you will never successfully sell anything. This diagnostic accuracy unlocks the most famous and heavily scrutinized weapon in the entire book. Use your leverage. The text bluntly states that you will never capture the specific terms you want unless you enter the room from a position of absolute strength, systematically convincing the opposing side that you possess something they pathologically need. Trump demonstrates that if real-world leverage does not naturally exist, you must aggressively manipulate perception to manufacture it. During early partnerships with Holiday Inn, he famously ordered active construction crews to dig massive, unnecessary holes on his property purely to trick corporate executives into believing his development was light years ahead of schedule. This controversial focus on manufacturing perception became the defining hallmark of his entire business career. To amplify this perception, a strategist must master the next directive: get the word out. Long before the dawn of modern social media algorithms, Trump understood the psychological real estate of public attention better than almost anyone in commerce. He completely refused to construct a building and passively hope the market would notice it. He deliberately engineered media storms to force the world to pay attention. He realized that the press possesses a ravenous appetite for controversy, glamour, and bold claims, and he gladly fed that hunger to capture millions of dollars in free advertising. Within this methodology, you do not sit back and let external critics define your work. You aggressively control the narrative, manufacture the hype, and actively dictate the public perception. Ultimately, these 11 directives move past basic real estate tactics to form a broader philosophy centered on power, presence, and unyielding persistence. When the text asserts that sheer, relentless persistence is the ultimate dividing line separating absolute success from permanent failure, it is providing a direct diagnosis of Trump's own volatile career. His historical record is marked by massive financial bankruptcies, operational collapses, and intense public embarrassments that would have permanently dismantled a traditional corporate executive. But the art of the deal is never about executing a flawless, error-free record. It is about possessed and ironclad psychological immunity to defeat, systematically treating every single setback as a temporary negotiation variable. This psychological durability relies on an intense, highly focused orientation toward the immediate present. The framework reveals that planning for the distant future is best achieved by focusing your absolute, undivided attention on the live execution of the present moment. Trump frames the grueling, high-pressure environment of multi-million-dollar negotiations not as a stressful corporate burden, but as an exhilarating, high-stakes game. Within this mindset, the massive buildings, the international branding, and the billions of dollars are merely the external scoreboard tracking the match. The true fulfillment is never found in the passive possession of the wealth, but in the raw, competitive physics of playing the game itself. In the final strategic analysis, the art of the deal transcends the boundary of a standard 1980s business memoir to serve as a perfect psychological portrait of a man who views the entire human world as a continuous series of aggressive negotiations. He successfully deployed these identical street-smart principles to erect a global real estate empire, capture the peak of reality television celebrity, and ultimately seize the most powerful political office on earth. Whether you fiercely oppose his aggressive methods or deeply study his competitive drive, his structural impact on global history is completely undeniable. If this fast-paced deep dive gave you a sharp new perspective on the mechanics of high-stakes negotiation, please smash that like button. Drop a comment below. Which of Trump's 11 principles do you calculate to be the most powerful in the real world? Subscribe and turn on notifications for more high-level business and strategy analysis, and I will see you in our next video.